is the Continuum Lab. I'm Jeppe, musician, maker and your host on this visit. In today's video I will get into the history of the Open Horn MIDI system as well as a bit of my personal history. But first, a short disclaimer.
The Continuum has no end and no beginning. It represents the sum total of all knowledge, stretching from the unnoticeably small and to the incomprehensibly vast. So the Continuum Lab is not really a physical space at all. I think of it as a state of mind, like a mental leap of faith from the comfortable platform of the known and into the infinite ignorance, where learning is the only method of propulsion. Welcome to the Continuum Lab.
I really want this video to be kind of a chronological account of the events leading up to this current Open Horn prototype, but in order for you to even understand where the Open Horn MIDI system comes from in the first place and why I'm still working on it after 5 years, I feel like I need to go back further and explain a little bit more about myself. So, as I think I've mentioned, I'm not an engineer. I'm not an industrial designer or anything like that. I am a musician, first and foremost, passionate about music from an early age. I was born in Denmark, but at age 21 I was accepted into the Royal Conservatory in The Hague in the Netherlands. So I packed my bags, I moved off to Holland, I studied obsessively for 4 years and graduated in 2004. Since then I've played and recorded with a bunch of cool people in a bunch of different places and I love it. But I'm also restless by nature, and so my passion for music began to fuel an interest in video production simply because I wanted to make cool videos for my own music. But before I knew it, I was writing music for the videos I wanted to make instead of the other way around. And to make a long story extremely short, in 2011 I landed my first job as an animator and compositor. I accepted that job and basically put music on the back burner for a time. Around that time, I also discovered maker culture and open source. If I had to point to one moment that changed me from a musician turned video geek and into a full-fledged born-again maker, it would have to be the first time I got my RevRap Prusa 3D printer up and running. That moment was so ecstatic for me that it pushed me to start to learn to code, but also to design and build stuff far beyond my level, so I was forced to constantly learn along the way. From there, the Open Horn MIDI system was born out of spite, basically. I had bought a loop pedal from a generic faceless brand, and my intention was to use it with my saxophones to add creative dimensions to my music. Well, the pedal failed catastrophically in the first rehearsal. And when I brought it back to the shop, they were less than helpful. So I immediately thought, this, I'm a maker. I can make something way cooler myself. Well, that was roughly 5 years ago, and the Open Horn MIDI system as it exists today is indeed much, much cooler than that nameless, faceless loop pedal which set the whole thing in motion. I can't possibly get into all the different prototypes and the changes that the instrument has seen over the years, but I can at least try to cover some of the main historic milestones and some of the main lessons that I've learned during the process. The very first prototype was featured on the record Bumpy Road by the Ramon Diaz trio and performed admirably, although it was still quite primitive and a little unstable. The third prototype was the most successful one so far, in that it has played live extensively, going on tour with me around Spain and the Canary Islands. It survived much abuse, but was eventually disassembled to recycle its components for further experimentation. Somewhere around the 6th or 7th prototype, a simultaneous change happened in the basic construction as well as the sensor setup of the Open Horn. This was when my first tests with bamboo finally made it into a functional Open Horn prototype. While still a bit rough, I found the results very encouraging. The other big change around that time was that it was the first time all the main analog sensors were based on an LED and photodiode combination. All the Open Horn analog sensors now use some variation of this concept. This, the very latest prototype, is also a milestone in that it marks the first successful departure from the resistive sensors that I've used for keys up until now. The resistive keys came with all kinds of problems, and eventually I dropped them in favor of the current capacitive setup. Okay, so I think I should stop right here. I promised myself I wouldn't make these videos too long. So this is the last video in this short series about the Open Horn MIDI system and the current Open Horn prototype. In the next series I will be documenting the making of several new Open Horns. I will be perfecting the shortcomings of the present prototype. I will be finishing the software, and hopefully at the end of it I will make the Open Horn available for sale to the public. See you soon.